The restaurant's private dining room epitomized old money elegance, with its crystal chandeliers casting warm light over the mahogany table where my family gathered for our monthly dinner. My mother, Sarah Winters, sat at the head of the table, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, Cartier bracelet glinting as she gestured with her wine glass. My father, James, adjusted his Hermès tie, barely glancing up from his lobster thermidor. I smoothed my simple black blazer, purchased from my first real paycheck, not the trust fund I declined 5 years ago. The waiter appeared at my elbow, filling my water glass. "Still no wine, Amanda?" Mom's voice carried that perfect blend of concern and condescension. "Water's fine," I replied, checking my phone discreetly. The merger notification from Singapore glowed briefly before I tucked it away. 5 years of careful planning were about to pay off. "How's the temporary work going?" Mom's pause was deliberate, her smile sharp. "Still filling in at that little law firm downtown?" I took a careful bite of my salad. "It pays the bills." "That's the problem, dear." Dad finally looked up. "A. Winters shouldn't just be paying bills. Your sister Sophia is making partner at Goldman Sachs next month. Speaking of which," Mom brightened, "Sophia just bought the most darling penthouse. Maybe she could help you find something better than that studio apartment." I checked my watch. A subtle Patek Philippe that would have revealed everything if they'd known enough about watches to recognize it. The merger papers would be arriving any minute. "Amanda needs to accept our help," Dad continued, cutting into his lobster. "This independence kick has gone on long enough. 5 years of temporary work? It's embarrassing. The country club ladies keep asking what you do," Mom added. "I've run out of ways to make temp sound impressive." My phone buzzed again. The Asian markets had just closed. Everything was in position. "I've actually been meaning to discuss my career," I said carefully, watching the door. "There have been some developments, Dash." "Oh, finally." Mom clapped her hands. "Have you reconsidered the position at your father's firm? Junior paralegal is a perfectly respectable start." "Not exactly, Dash." The private dining room's door burst open. Marcus Chin, senior partner at Winters, Chin and Associates, my mother's law firm, rushed in, his face flushed with excitement or exertion. His Armani suit was slightly rumpled, his tie askew. "Madam Chairman. Thank God you're here." He thrust a stack of papers onto the table, scattering bread plates. "The Singapore merger. We need your signature immediately." Mom frowned. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" "I'm not, Dash." "Not you, Sarah," Marcus said quickly. He turned to me, bowing slightly. "Madam Chairman?" Dad's fork clattered onto his plate. Mom's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. I reached for the papers, pulling out my Mont Blanc pen, a gift from my board of directors. "The Zhang merger? I thought we had until midnight Singapore time." "They moved up the deadline," Marcus explained. "Once they heard about the Dubai offer." Dash. "Dubai." Mom's voice was faint. "Amanda, what is he talking about?" I held up one finger, scanning the documents. "Give me a moment, Mother." "Marcus, have legal looked at the intellectual property clauses on page 16? "Thoroughly, Madam Chairman. The Asian patents are included." The silence around the table was absolute. I could feel my parents' stares as I initialed each page, the scratch of my pen the only sound in the room. "I don't understand," Dad finally managed. "You're a temporary assistant." "Actually," I said, signing the final page with a flourish, "I was never a temp. I've been running my own law firm. The one that's about to acquire Mother's company in the largest legal merger in Asian market history." Mom's face had gone pale. But your studio apartment, your basic clothes." "A cover," I explained, handing the papers back to Marcus. "I needed to build my firm without family connections or interference. The studio apartment is actually the penthouse floor. I own the building. And these basic clothes." I smoothed my blazer. "Seville Row bespoke." "All this time?" Dad whispered. 5 years, I confirmed. "While you were mocking my temp job, I was building the fastest-growing legal empire in the Pacific Rim. As of tonight," I checked my watch again, "I own controlling interest in Winters, Chin and Associates, along with 6 other major firms across Asia." The waiter appeared with fresh water. My parents still hadn't moved. "Now," I said, picking up my fork, Shall we discuss the new management structure? Mother, I'm afraid your corner office has a lovely view of the park, but I'll be needing it next week. Dad's water glass tipped over, sending ice cubes skittering across the white tablecloth. Mom's perfectly manicured hands were shaking. Marcus stood by the door, barely concealing his smile. Will there be anything else, Madam Chairman? No thank you, Marcus. I turned back to my salad. Though we should discuss the Tokyo expansion in the morning. Shall we say 9 a.m.? I believe my new office should be free by then. The first course wasn't even finished, and already the power dynamics had shifted completely. I hid my smile behind my water glass. Dinner was just getting started. The silence that followed felt heavier than the crystal chandelier above us. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass, nearly knocking it over. The waiter appeared with the main course, but no one moved to touch their plates. This is absurd, Mom finally sputtered, her composure cracking. You can't possibly. The board would never. I pulled out my phone, sliding it across the table. The board voted unanimously last week. Your CFO was quite helpful, especially after discovering those creative accounting practices from 2019. Dad's face went ashen. You knew about that? I know everything, Father. Including how you've been losing clients to my Hong Kong office for the past 2 years. Did you never wonder why Morrison & Global suddenly dropped your firm? Mom's fingers clutched her pearl necklace. That was you. But they said it was a new international. Winter's international law, I confirmed, taking a bite of my perfectly cooked steak. I just used my middle name, Elizabeth, instead of the family name. It's amazing how little research people do when they're too busy looking down on others. The door opened again, this time revealing Jessica Barnes, my PR director. Sorry to interrupt, Madam Chairman, but the Wall Street Journal is requesting a comment on the merger. They're running it as tomorrow's front page. Mom's wine glass finally tipped, spreading a red stain across the white tablecloth. Front page. Youngest female CEO revolutionizes legal industry, Jessica quoted. They're particularly interested in the rags to riches angle. Should I mention how you worked your way up from, what was it your mother called you? Just a temporary assistant? That won't be necessary, Jessica, I said smoothly. Let's focus on the merger details instead. After Jessica left, Dad cleared his throat. Amanda, surely we can discuss this. The family name. The family name? I raised an eyebrow. The same name you used to belittle me at every dinner for 5 years? The one Mom couldn't wait to distance from my embarrassing career choices. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the Singapore office. You'll destroy everything we've built, Mom whispered. No, Mother. I'm going to make it better. Your firm's been losing market share for 3 years. Your international clients are jumping ship, and your technological infrastructure is a decade behind. I'm not destroying anything. I'm saving it. By taking over? Dad's voice rose slightly. By modernizing, I corrected. Starting with the corner office. That antique furniture has to go. I'm thinking glass walls, smart screens, perhaps a view of the city I'm about to transform. The waiter appeared to clear our barely touched plates. Mom hadn't taken a single bite. What about your sister? Mom asked desperately. Sophia's position at Goldman. Already handled, I said, dabbing my lips with the napkin. Goldman's private equity division is handling part of the merger financing. Sophia found out this morning when her boss called her in. She should be calling you right about. Mom's phone rang. Her hands shook so badly she could barely answer it. Speaking of calls, I stood up, smoothing my blazer. I have a video conference with Tokyo in 20 minutes. Mom, the movers will be at your office tomorrow at 9. Don't worry about packing. They'll handle everything. Where are they moving my things? She managed. The 3rd floor has some lovely offices. The view isn't quite as impressive, but I'm sure you'll adjust. After all, I smiled, reaching for my purse. It's still better than a temp's desk, isn't it? As I walked toward the door, Dad found his voice. Amanda, wait. We're your parents. Yes, you are, I turned back. And for 5 years, you made sure I never forgot how disappointed you were in me. How embarrassing it was to have a daughter playing at business instead of following the path you chose. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an empire to run. The door closed behind me with a soft click, leaving them sitting in stunned silence among the remnants of their shattered assumptions and spilled wine. In the restaurant's lobby, Marcus waited with another stack of papers. "The Tokyo contracts are ready, Madam Chairman." "Perfect," I said, heading toward my waiting car. "And Marcus? Have HR prepare new business cards for my parents. I believe senior associates should be their new title. After all," I smiled, "we have to keep it in the family, don't we?" The car door opened and I slid into the leather interior, leaving behind the old power structure and stepping fully into my new role. The night wasn't over yet and I had an empire to unveil. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of what was now my corner office on the 50th floor. The antique furniture had been cleared out overnight, replaced by sleek, modern pieces that better suited my style. Digital displays covered one wall, showing real-time updates from our offices across Asia. I stood at the window sipping my espresso, watching the city wake up. My reflection showed a woman in a perfectly tailored Chanel suit. No more need for the understated blazers I'd worn as cover. A soft knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." Jessica entered, tablet in hand. "The press release is getting massive attention. Your parents' faces are all over the financial news." I smiled, turning to face the city again. "And my sister?" "Sophia called HR 3 times already. Apparently, Goldman Sachs isn't quite as impressed with her now that they know who her sister is." "Life comes at you fast," I mused, setting down my cup. "Any word from my parents?" "They're waiting in the third-floor conference room. Your mother tried to use her old security code to access this floor. It didn't go well." The elevator dinged and Marcus stepped in. "Tokyo papers are calling it the silent takeover. They're particularly impressed by how you built everything without the family name." Speaking of family, I turned from the window. Let's not keep them waiting. The ride to the third floor was brief. Through the glass walls, I could see them sitting in the conference room. Mom still in her pearls, Dad clutching his old leather briefcase. They looked smaller somehow, less intimidating than they had at all those family dinners. I entered the room, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The sound made them both jump. "Good morning," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table, Mom's old position. "I trust you've had time to process everything?" "Amanda," Dad started, his voice hoarse, "we've been up all night discussing this. Surely we can come to some arrangement." "We already have." I opened the folder in front of me. "Your new contracts are here. Senior associates with very generous compensation packages. More than fair considering the firm's performance under your leadership." Mom's hand shook as she reached for the papers. "You can't expect us to work for our own daughter." "Why not?" I leaned back. "I worked under you for years, unofficially, of course, gathering intelligence while you thought I was just a temp. Consider this a learning opportunity." "Learning opportunity?" Dad's face reddened. "We built this firm. And nearly ran it into the ground," I countered. "Your international client list has shrunk by 40% in 3 years. Your technology is outdated, your marketing is stagnant, and your younger partners are jumping ship to more innovative firms." "My firms." The silence that followed was deafening. "You have 2 choices," I continued, sliding pens across the table. "Sign the contracts and keep your positions with some adjustments, or clean out your offices by noon. Either way, the firm is mine." Mom's perfectly maintained facade finally cracked. "How could you do this to your own family?" "Family?" I laughed softly. "Was it family when you seated me at the children's table at every function? When you told your friends I was finding myself, instead of admitting I was building something bigger than you could imagine? When you and Sophia—" I stopped, composing myself. "This isn't revenge. It's business. Something you taught me very well, though perhaps not in the way you intended." Dad picked up the pen, his hand trembling slightly. "We don't have a choice, do we?" "You always have a choice, Father. Just like I did 5 years ago when you offered me that junior paralegal position. I chose to build my own path. Now it's your turn to choose." They exchanged glances, years of authority and certainty crumbling before my eyes. Finally they both signed. "Welcome to the new Winters International Law." I stood, gathering the contracts. "Your office assignments are on page 3. The IT department will help you set up your new security codes." "Oh, and Mom?" She looked up, her eyes damp. The country club ladies will be so relieved to finally understand what your daughter does for a living. As I walked out, I heard Dad's briefcase hit the floor, its contents spilling like the last remnants of their control. In the elevator, Jessica waited with updates from Singapore. The Asian markets are responding even better than expected. Your net worth just crossed 10 billion. Schedule a family dinner for next month, I said, watching the numbers climb on my phone. Same private room at the restaurant. Let's see how they handle sitting at the smaller end of the table. The elevator rose to my floor now, not Mom's, and I stepped out into the empire I'd built. Through the windows, I could see our company logo being installed on the building's facade, visible to the entire city. No more hiding. No more pretending. No more sitting at the children's table. The Temp had finally become the boss, and dinner would never be the same again.